and welcome to Wednesday Wandering with me, Cate Field. That's wondering about stuff and not just wandering off. Now, I like to dive into the art and wisdom and inspiration of remarkable women throughout history in my wanderings. And today we're going to be exploring someone quite amazing. We're going to step back in time to the glittering courts and salons of 17th century France. And we're going to meet a woman of extraordinary insight called Madame de Sévigné. Now, today we might text a friend or post onto social media and all that, but in Madame de Sévigné's day, what she did was to bring correspondence to an absolute art. She wrote more than just family news. Her legacy of humour and wit was a real window into her world. Now, her name was Marie de Ribeton-Chantal, but we know her as Madame de Sévigné, and she was born in 1626, and she would come to be celebrated for her letters to her daughter, which are absolutely extraordinary. There are sharp observations of her family and her daughter Marguerite, and we can see the very heart of humanity at this time in France. So imagine being a woman in her era when society placed you in the home, and you weren't really allowed to be in public life. But she was a chronicler and she was amazing, and her thoughts are expressive, and they just capture her whole world, and they are just amazing, and there is just so much joy and wisdom. Just amazing. So we're going to have a little chat, a little wander about her life. And I will be glancing at my notes, so forgive me for that. So we're going to really look at her relationship with her daughter, because it was deep and intense. When Françoise Marguerite married and moved to Provence, which was hundreds of miles away from Madame de Sévigné, she turned to her pen to bridge that distance. And in her letters, she poured out motherly advice, concerns, and humour. And one of her letters reads, "I live only for you. I breathe only for you. Everything is for you." Her love for her daughter was passionate and at times a little overbearing, to be honest. But her daughter was her confidant and her heart. And through these letters, we can see the beautiful, sometimes bittersweet depth of their relationship. Now, one of the reasons that I just love her letters is her wit and sharp tongue are something else. They're just amazing. She had a real keen eye for life's ironies. And for example, on love and marriage, she writes, "Love is the most foolish of passions." It's quite a bold statement, quite like it. And very bold for her time. And her approach was playful. And there's been a lot of speculation on this of why, but she does seem to have had quite an unhappy marriage. She was widowed quite young, and this has kind of given her quite a cynical view on romantic relationships. So I wonder whether being widowed was actually a bit of a relief for her, which is quite interesting in that time as well. She used wit to shed light on society's ridiculous expectations of women and the silly rituals of aristocratic life at that time. So she would laugh at the world, and we see these in her letters. She wrote, "There are people who have much more wit than we do, but they don't enjoy themselves nearly as much. I love that. So this sums up her philosophy. Life was to be enjoyed. And if she could laugh at it along the way, then all the better. That would be really, really good. Her observations went beyond family and love, though. She had strong opinions, sometimes quite daring opinions, on politics and the working of King Louis XIV's court, which was quite radical, really. Although we have to remember that her letters were not meant to be read by anyone other than her daughter. She did not expect them to be found, and certainly didn't expect them to be published, because she wrote about scandals and intrigues and the ambitions of powerful men of the day, which is really quite funny. She managed to discuss these topics with a balance of respect and criticism, which is quite clever combination, isn't it? And this reveals her cleverness and her understanding of the delicate social dance required in her world. So again, although these letters weren't meant to be read by the public, by ordinary people, they're filled with wisdom and keen insights that I feel make them timeless. She wasn't afraid to criticise the king, although she did it subtly. And in one letter, she implied that he was more interested in appearances than in justice. And it's as though she's winking at her daughter and inviting her to see through the gauze and the fog and things like that. And I find her fascinating. And if she's someone that you've never heard of before, then I strongly recommend you go and do a little bit of research, because, wow, your eyes will be opened to another world, which is just wonderful. We do cherish her letters as literature. They are beautifully written. Obviously, I am reading them in translation, but they are timeless because the words and the emotions, the expressions that she uses are just so relevant today. And she influenced future writers. She influenced Rousseau and Balzac. And some people will argue that she did really shape the genre of epistolary novel. So that's the novels that are written through letters and correspondence between characters. And one of the things that I love is that she reminds us of the connection, the importance of connection, taking time to express ourselves thoughtfully, not just a rushed text in response to something that someone has sent to us. Letter writing takes time, and sending a letter, you're talking about days before someone gets to then read it. And when you receive a letter, you take time to read it through. I feel that her letters carry this spirit of mindfulness that a lot of us strive for today. It's that kind of thoughtful process. Her words are carefully chosen. They're shared with purpose. They really are. So I'm going to end this little wandering into the fabulous world of Madame de Sévigné, because she wrote, "It is a great error to believe that all people think alike." Wow. I feel that we all need to be reminded of that, actually, and that we all have minds of our own, and we can all think in different ways to somebody else. And it doesn't mean that we can't connect, and it doesn't mean that we can't be friends. And I love that. She knew the value of embracing individuality through thoughtfulness. And this belief radiates through her letters, allowing her to connect deeply with other people. So if she has inspired you to perhaps pick up a pen and write, to capture a moment or a feeling, perhaps that's something that you would like to do. She found joy and wisdom and humour in the art of correspondence, and in doing so, she left a legacy of love. Love, intelligence, and individuality. And I hope her wit and wisdom bring a little bit of inspiration to you today in this week's Wednesday Wandering. And I hope you can join me next time. Bye-bye.